Bike Shed Boys back, and I'm so glad that I managed to get the first bit that you've just seen before me being on camera of the actual bike in its full beauty in the actual sun. Now I'm going to speak a bit louder because it's raining out there and it's a bit horrible and drizzly, to be fair, as you can hear. Obviously we're doing a few upgrades on the Prestige, the orange Prestige today. Now you can see I've already taken off the crank. So it had the beautiful matching XTR crank on there, but we're going to upgrade this because if you remember, I actually built the stunning middle-burn crank. So we're going to put that on there. That's just going to look pimp as anything. So we're going to put that on, and basically I've got a beautiful little upgrade for the brakes as well. So definitely stick around for that one. So when I do that, I'm just going to do that without any talking because it's raining, so you guys can just listen to the British weather while I just fit that crank, pedals, put the chain on, index the gears and so on. Before we get into that, I want to shout out Paul. You know who you are, Paul. Guy's a legend. Watch his channel. I've helped him out a little bit recently, and as a thank you, he basically made me a awesome little tea coaster, all laser etched. And the funny thing is, he did actually make me a slate one, but for some reason I look like Morgan Freeman on that. So that one is going to go to another friend who also watches the channel, Mario. So big shout out to Mario. I'm going to be sending you one of them. But yeah, Paul, thanks. I appreciate that a lot. That will keep my cups of tea lovely and warm in the workshop. So appreciate that. But yeah, looks awesome. That really caught the distinguished details, and obviously as you can see, the beard's back. Yes. It's back. Don't know how long I'll grow it out for, but it's back for now. So on that note, let's get round to upgrading this bike, because as soon as this one's done today, I've got another one coming straight in, which that one's a more in depth, so we'll go into that one on the next video. So on that note, let's start getting this beautiful middle-burn crankset on. And as you just saw, the little pop-up next to me, I have got an helper today who's bored, so he's helping out today. So let's get this on.
Go.
That one. Well, the crank looks a lot better on there. It suits the bike, generally nice, keeping everything British. Now, I don't think Paul is British. Not Paul who made me this. Paul for that. So what we've got here is Paul's components. Now, let me just take this out. I'll take one out for now. So what we've got here is the next upgrade that we're doing on this bike. And then this bike is done. Like, we can sign this off just like the rest, as in no more can be done to it. Well, everyone's got their own taste. But let me just pop this out. So, and there we are. So what we've got is moon units. So these are the black ones. They're not cheap, and you do have to order these in from America. So that is what we're going to be putting on. So instead of, so as you can see there, we've got the little diacomp on there for the 987 cantilever brakes. Now that, as it stands, is mint. Now it's pulling a bit closer to the bar, and that's because the wheels are different from when I first built it. So it's got the old Hopes on now with some of the 517 SUP rims. So they're just a little bit narrower. So not only can we fit these, but then we can reset them pads as well on there and reset them brakes. So we're going to pull that off and get them on, because I think they just look absolutely awesome. So we will do that now. We'll do that now, and then that's it done. The rain's slowed down a little bit, so I can actually hear myself think now in the workshop. I hope you managed to get through. I'll probably tone down the volume a little bit throughout everything what I just did in terms of putting the crank on and that, because that rain was like, but at the moment what I've done is I've got myself a new pop-up gazebo outside, so anything that I take out the shed doesn't get wet. So that's good, because then I can sit outside, do bits and bobs. Sun's starting to come out, hopefully it stops, sun comes out, job's a good one. Due to the weather, this ain't getting ridden today, but we can get it ready for riding. So I'm going to swap that out now, which I will give you a nice little run through of doing that, because I haven't shown a setup of cantilever brakes in a while. Hopefully we can get around with just dropping, because that moon unit is pretty much going to sit exactly where that one's going to sit. So I don't think we're going to have to replace the whole cable, unless it's got any kind of like frayed cable bits. Then I'll take it off. If it looks crap, I'll just swap the cable out. But given that everything's still fresh, maybe shouldn't have to. So we'll find out. Let's do it. So first off, we'll disconnect these off, and I'll just pop that out of there as well. Oh, another thing what we're going to actually replace is this straddle cable as well, because that's the thicker one. Don't look as shiny, don't look as clean. So we're going to actually swap that out. And what we actually ordered was some basically diacomp straddle cables for them, just to make them look just that little bit more fresher. And also we knew that was going to kind of be resetting the brakes, so the clamping area might have been a bit different. We didn't want any clamping marks, because as you can see where that break is there, it does kind of flatten that cable out and it just looks a bit crap, so we'll change that anyway. So we'll just nip that up. So with it being the old Diacoms, these will be two 9mm spanners. So we'll just whip that off. Oh, that's an 8. There you go, so we'll loosen that off. And I think it will just look, these moon units will just look a lot better. Pop that off. Just because around there you've got the silver Chris King headset and the silver crown as well, so having that black moon unit just sitting in that area will just look a lot nicer. Now that cable generally looks relatively nice, so I'll just straighten that ever so slightly. So it's only got a minor crimp there, but we're going to be crimping it in the same place on this. So where's my Allen key? So with the Paul's Components moon units, it doesn't have an hole to go through the centre of the bolt. It kind of has a little running track just down the side of it there. So basically that can sit pretty much directly where the old clamp was. And we'll nip that up. Now they're a bit difficult to hold, just to get them a little bit tight. So, but equally that should be enough to hold that. So straighten that up. There we are. So we'll be able to put another cable end on that. That's perfect, that looks lovely. So then now we'll crack open the new Diacom actual cable. You can see that's a lot nicer, a lot shinier, and that will sit down that little track down there and in there like so, and then pop that straight down there. And then what I'm going to do is generally get these in the position where they kind of want to be. So I'm kind of aiming for the brake arms to be nice and straight in terms of the bits that sit just down inside there. But setting that straight, like I say, the brakes will still pull to the bar, which we are going to adjust the brake pads anyway. So if I nip that up just a little bit more, always be careful as well with the Allen keys in this area. If you find that the Allen key is sitting too close to that leg, then I'd always say just nip it up to where you kind of really want it to be, and then drop that cable off a little bit, just so then you've got good clearance from the fork leg, so you're not going to kind of damage that fork leg. And then we'll just nip them up, and then there we go. So once we've got everything lined and straight and looking nice, we'll find that a little adjustment is going to be needed there, because that it's pulling like nearly close to the back of the bar. And then what we'll do is basically just index out the adjuster just about your pulling distance to the other one, and then once you've done that, we'll just realign them pads then. So just going to move that XTR shifter out of the way because I don't want the barrel adjuster to scratch it in any way. So I'll quickly do this. So I've just pulled that adjuster out a little bit, like that. I've just realised I've not moved the camera so you could actually see what I was doing there, but literally all I've done is this. So all I've done is essentially just adjusted that adjuster from there outwards just a little bit, just to give me the right pulling distance that I want to set the pads to. So at this point, now you've done that, and obviously you've got your height of which you kind of want everything to be. Obviously you can see that I've got the adjuster out, but they're still moved there, but we're going to move them pads inwards just a little bit as well. So on this set of brakes, on the 987s, you've got an Allen key at the front, you've got a 10mm at the back. I'd always say hold the back and then obviously loosen them off, so they don't need to be extremely tight. And then same for the other side, and all that's going to do, because I'm holding the back of that, it's going to stop the brake pad and everything from moving around. So let's get a non-ball end. Always be careful of using ball-ended Allen keys. So then brake pads now will move around. So in doing that, you want to make sure that your brake's pulling nice and equal anyway. At this point you can make any adjustments to your brake arms. So if I'm looking at that dead on, then brake arms now are equal and they're pulling. So now this is where the trick is. Because I've moved that adjuster out, what I can do now is basically set the brake pads directly to the rim, tighten them up, and then wind that adjuster back in, and that will let the brake arms move out ever so slightly. So getting this set up first is ideal, because then when you pull that in, the adjuster out, obviously it's going to pull them brake pads in a little bit, set the pads, and then when you let the adjuster out, it lets them go back to generally where you want it. So like I say, get them brake pads now, that's loose, set against that rim. Obviously these are relatively new softer pads as well, so there won't be any kind of like squealing, but older brake pads can become a little bit hard. So sometimes with the old pads, they might squeal a little bit. So you might need to toe them in, and toeing in is basically, rather than having your pads like flat against the rim like that, you would basically have them toed in just a little bit on one end, usually the front, generally speaking. The thing is with that though, it's like they'll wear it at an angle. So, but for the cost of a cheap set of brake pads, new, not going to squeal, I'd always say, even though you want to keep your bike retro, no old stock brake pads probably isn't the way to go. And I have mentioned that before on videos as well. So I'm just going to basically do exactly what I just said, line all them up against the rim, and I'm going to essentially just nip them up first, just so they're not too high, not too low. Obviously if I put any force in that, I could move that with my fingers. So I'm just going to nip that up, and I'm going to hold it at the back again, and then tighten it up just so that brake pad doesn't shift. So if I tighten the Allen key just on its own, that brake pad is basically just going to start tilting upwards as I tighten that. So that is not a full run through. I think I have actually given a better run through and demonstration on the channel before. One of my early videos, to be fair. I think it was on the Marin that I did it on. So yeah, I'm not going to go into full depth. But essentially, these are the two main upgrades that we've done on this bike today. We've got the middle burn crank on, which looks absolutely sexy anyway. Even when I put that together, I was like, this crank is bloody lovely. And then obviously the Paul Moon unit. So it's the first time I've fitted a set of these, but the look of them is fantastic. Obviously you can see from the Moon units themselves, the quality is there. So I would generally recommend them. However, the price is a bit scary. So I'm just going to essentially just nip that up, like I say, with my fingers first. And then I'm going to put the spanner just on that flat edge at the back, and then basically as I nip this up, I'm going to be creating equal force on the back of that brake, just so that don't move. So now I've got them lined up, you want to make sure that you've got an equal amount of brake pad either side, and then obviously check to, you shouldn't be able to pull that in any way on that lever. And then now basically if I wound that lever back in, so I'm doing that now, so I'm winding that barrel adjuster back into the brake. So now that's done, let's have a look. So that is now pulling, and now all I've got to do is then match the back brake to that. But that just makes, once I've got a nipple on there, I've cut that, tidied that up, and double checked all the bolts are all tight, and dialed them brakes in front and back. They're going to look awesome, and just a really nice addition, to be fair. So yeah, that is, I would say, this bike done. I'm going to fettle with that, I'm going to tidy them cables up, and then I'll just give you a last little panorama view of that brake once I've kind of done, because it's sitting at this angle, it's a bit hard to do, but on just a first initial, just bang, done like that, that's feeling really nice, positive index, loving it. Yeah, a lot better than the Diacom ones that was on there. There's no wrong with them, but they are just a basic, so it is nice to put something nice on. So see you in a second. Those mooring units definitely make just a big impact on that braking system alone, in my opinion. Let me know what you think, you guys and girls always think about these cheeky upgrades. I think the crankset is not only better, but, which I didn't mention at the beginning, another reason why we took the XTR crankset off this one is because my friend's actually building another XTR group set now. Trying to find that crank in that condition is next to near on impossible. You can get everything else, not that it's cheap, but so yes, this was XTR all out, but obviously we had the Diacom brakes on there, so the gears, shifters, the mechs at XTR, but now we've got the middle burn crank, which means that crankset and the bottom bracket that came off this bike is now been put with an entire full XTR group set, which later on down the line, maybe next summer, you'll see that one on another bike. That one's going to be special. So happy Easter, everyone. Hope you've all enjoyed your Easter eggs. I don't eat chocolate, but hope you've all enjoyed your Easter eggs, generally speaking. Just a cheeky weekend video, just a little bit of an upgrade video. The next one is more in depth. We've got to swap out a steerer, do a bit of we're basically taking out a steerer in a pace forks, putting a different size steerer in. We've got the adapters and so on. We ordered them from Pace. That's going to be a cool video, and a few more in-depth bits on that one. I'll try and make it educational like I did on the last video. So this video is not going to be a long one, promise you on that one, because we're nearly at the end. So yeah, I might just the rain stopped now, so I might bang her in the garden just so I can do a close-up of the crank. You guys let me know what you think. As always, I'm going to leave you on that one. Stay safe, look after each other, and see you on the next one. See you.
There's a boy with a toolbox fixing them all. wheels and chain so tight. He's got the magic, makes them run just right. With a wrench in his hand and grease on his face, he's got that smile, it's his favorite place. Every pedal, every gear, he knows the way. Bike Shed Boy, here to save the day. Bike Shed Boy, turning the spanners, fixing all the rats, bringing back the manners. From black tires to rusty chains, he'll get you rolling down the lanes. Bike Shed Boy with his hands so quick, tightening bolts, making them slick. Bike Shed Boy is sick.